Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. We're on Podbean, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're also on Dash Radio on their Nothing But Net channel every single weeknight at 7 p.m. Also, check out Five Reasons YouTube. As soon as the game ends, post up 5R, an hour before every game begins. Before Floor, make sure you subscribe because we got streams going on all the South Florida sports every single day of the week. Also, 5reasonsports.com. Make sure you spell that one out, 5reasonsports.com. We do not have a paywall. Get the latest takeaways from Brady Hawk, the latest on the Dolphins, and again, all of the other teams in town. Also, check out the great sponsors of the Five Reasons Sports Network. Some of them are local, including Signs Broward, FortLauderdale.com. You can also find them at Signs Broward on Twitter, and they handle everything for you. If you ever walk down Las Olas, you've seen their signs, okay? They do the business window graphics, the interior office signage, the custom flags and banners, and they do the sign repair and maintenance, which is necessary down here in South Florida. We know how the weather can get at times. So go to Signs Broward, FortLauderdale.com. They'll also handle your signs for your trade shows, your car, your truck, whatever it is you need a sign for, they will do it for you. Again, go to signsbrowardfortlauderdale.com, 954-791-8685. That's 954-791-8685. Make sure you mention Five Reasons. Get yourself a discount. And now, tonight's episode.
Down the bitch gang. Yeah. Five on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the Five Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to Five on the Floor, Five Reasons Sports Network. Tonight's floor plan, I'm at FTX Arena. At home, Greg Sylvander and Brady Hawk. You can follow him at Brady Hawk 305 and at Greg Sylvander. The Miami Heat beat the Houston Rockets tonight. They're now 43-22 on the season, still firmly in first place in the Eastern Conference. We're actually waiting to see what happens with the Warriors tonight. They could have the second best record in the entire league, tied with the Warriors by the time that we finish this podcast. I will go through the other stuff first, but we know there's one thing we got to talk about. Tyler Hero had 31 points tonight after a scoreless first quarter. He was 6 of 9 from 3, 12 of 18. Overall, Jimmy Butler had 21, 7, and 4. PJ Tucker had a double-double, 11 and 12. Bam Adebayo, after a slow start, finished with 18 and 10. Duncan Robinson with 13. We told you to go over on Prize Picks. But the story tonight, Victor Oladipo played 15 minutes. The 15 minutes that Eric Spoelstra said he was going to play before the game, he said that was the minutes limit. It was a strict minutes limit. I have a feeling that if he'd gone to 16, Eric wouldn't have noticed. But he ended up playing 15 minutes tonight. 11 points, 1 rebound, 4 assists, 2 charges taken, 1 turnover, 4 of 7 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3. When he made the first 3 on a pass from Kyle Lowry, who also returned tonight, by the way, Kyle was 0 of 3 for the field, but a plus 16 on the game. When Kyle made the pass to Vic, which could have been an open 3 for Kyle, Vic thanked him afterwards after Vic made the shot. This was all about Victor Oladipo tonight. Well, I just wanted, for full disclosure, before I bring Brady and Greg in here, Vic has not spoken to the media by the time that we've done this podcast. We were waiting for him, but waited out Spoelstra, Tucker, and Hero. So there will be more stuff going on our Instagram page that we may not get to today. So make sure that you check that out. But I'll just turn it over now, Greg. Your emotion tonight.
So that went about as well as it could have ever gone. And there's something about the way that this team keeps answering questions. Like, we keep having legitimate questions about this team, and then the answers come. And then when you just Oladipo specifically to come out and show the bounce to get that dunk, to get in the lane and just be able to move and get to the basket. It's just the stuff we've been talking about, rim pressure and then hitting threes. It was as good of a debut as he could have had. I think emotionally, you see how connected the team is. And I can't get away from this. Like, I have not been as confident about a group since the Big Three era, no doubt. And even like the Dwayne Shaq teams, I don't know if I was as confident as I am about this team, top to bottom. It's really incredible, truthfully.
Can we just say that they handled this perfectly? I mean, if you look at it, not just did it work out perfectly, but it worked out perfectly by plan. I mean, you were able to hold out Oladipo until he was completely ready. March. We thought it might be February. We talked about that before the season. We thought he could be back. And I do think
he wanted to play in December if it was up to him.
But you had the option of waiting. Not that they wouldn't have been careful about it anyway with what happened last year, but they had the option of waiting because of all the other good stuff they did, right? Because of what they got from Gabe Vincent, because of what they got from Max Strus. And I know, Brady, we'll get to the Butler Instagram post. Max Strus today, within about 10 minutes of the game ending. Max lost his minutes tonight, okay? Max didn't play until the very end. He and Vincent played the last 3 minutes and 28 seconds with Kyle Guy, okay? Max and Gabe have been critical in keeping this team afloat. Max Strus posted the Heat's, post-game tweet and then posted above it Dipo Day with 3 exclamation points. If there were concerns about the way that this team was going to handle losing minutes to Victor Oladipo, I think that was answered already. And it was also answered by Eric Spoelstra saying, worrying about minutes and having too many good players is for amateurs. Okay, I've been on the other side of this. This is a man who coached a team where Josh Richardson and Hassan Whiteside were his best players for 4 or 5 years ago.
What a quote.
I don't think he's particularly concerned about this. But let's transition because there was so much emotion tonight, and I was in the building. I've been here for Zoe's return. Okay, I was here for Dwayne's return. Nothing's going to compete with that. And then obviously the introduction of so many players over the years, whether it was LeBron or Shaq, etc. But there was something significant tonight because this player, unlike those players, hasn't really done anything here. I mean, he played 4 games. He got hurt. He re-signed for the minimum, which we credited him for. And he was engaged from the very beginning. We've talked about this many times. Brady and I noticing him at that first scrimmage, being so animated, the first scrimmage that they had way back. I guess we go all the way back to September now. But he hasn't done anything in a Heat uniform. And yet tonight in this building, it was like he was a 10-year Heat lifer, the way that they embraced him with the chance, waiting for him to get into the game. And just everything that he did. And this does feel in so many ways, and I think you've hit on it, Greg, like a special team. It's just a different kind of team. We know when we have that kind of team down here, and This feels like that kind of team. And I just keep saying this. It's a June team. It is built for June, this team. All right. We're going to get into the basketball part here, and that's what Brady's here for. Okay. So before we do that, I just wanted to get to some of this stuff because we're all over the place tonight. We do want to tell you about a couple of the great sponsors, the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Make sure you use the code 5RSN. This is for premium CBD at therapistpreferred.com, the tincture, the sports cream, the gummies, all of it. Help you sleep, help you recover. I wonder if Victor Oladipo used some of this stuff when he was getting back. Use the code 5RSN at therapistpreferred.com. Use that same code at getsalis.com. I've been pronouncing it incorrectly this entire time. Don't tell anybody. Getsalis.com. GETSALIS.com. I do use this stuff. I just haven't pronounced it correctly. This is for endurance athletes, but really it's for anybody who sweats. Okay. If you sweat, you need to replace your electrolytes. Do it in a healthy way. Right. Don't just pound all that Gatorade, all that sugar. Go to getsalis.com. Use the code 5RSN and you'll get 10% off. That's GETSALIS.com or therapistpreferred.com. That same code 5RSN. All right, Brady, let's get to the hoops here. He drew the true charges. That's just basketball. It's going to fit in defensively. You talked about that. He had a turnover in traffic. He made a couple of threes. But there was other stuff that I saw from him tonight, and I'm just curious. What did you kind of see that might be more subtle?
The big thing for me, as I said before the game, like I'm watching the defensive stuff. Like I expect him to actually be a lot more rusty offensively than he was, and I think that's why his expectations went further than kind of what I expected. But the defensive stuff was real. Like when I was looking at probably the first 4 or 5 possessions, like there was probably 5 defensive possessions in the first quarter. He made a stop in like 4 of them. And it wasn't even like, it felt like Houston was kind of attacking him just to kind of test it, because it's a guy returning from injury, could be a little slower. It's possibly an advantage. Obviously there was the first charge, but then it's just the way that he doesn't rely on quickness. And I think that's the biggest thing when a guy that is returning. Like, we kept talking about lateral quickness on the last pod, and we were talking about Victor Oladipo. This is a guy that just uses his body to his advantage. He doesn't give up any ground. And I think his biggest defensive skill is just one-on-one stuff, which is interesting because that's probably one of the biggest things with this Heat team. Like, we know that's what Gabe's good at. We know that's what Caleb's good at. But these other guys like Jimmy and PJ, like, you want them looming kind of as free safeties and being the rotators. But when you have this other guy coming in, we talked about Tyler Hero, he's plugging in next to him. You need a guy that can guard top tier guards if these two are going to be playing next to each other a lot. I think Victor Oladipo can get to that level. Like, obviously it's going to be, there's so many other guys on this roster, as we talk about from top to bottom, that can be doing it, but it's just that he can hold certain guys off, and there's nothing holding him back at this stage, even when it's the first game. So that's kind of what stuck out to me. And also another thing that stuck out to me tonight is when you guys were talking about how good this team is. This team probably has the best garbage time 5 in the league, or probably ever. I'm watching Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Omer Yurtseven, and all these guys playing with a minute left in the game. Like, that has to be said of how good this roster is.
Yeah, no, but like, truthfully, they don't play well, and they still like find ways to win. Ethan, you've been watching this team just as long as I have. Like, that's a June team. Like that, you know what I mean? When like you sleepwalk through a first half, and then you can like turn it on and suffocate.
Well, but you got to be careful with that, because it's not going to work against team. Look, this Houston team has a lot of young talent, but I mean, there's a ton of they're teenagers basically. Okay, so you can't do that against everybody. But I do think what we've seen, and Vic just adds another element to this, is they have different guys who can take over different parts of the game. And so Tyler Hero tonight, scoreless in the first, and I was actually watching it, and I was a little concerned about his early in his first stint, because he looked to me like he was deferring to Vic, because that has been his unit. This question was asked in the post game of him. And now all of a sudden he's got to play with Vic. And I asked him, and Coop asked afterwards, how much of you guys actually work together? He says, I know how good Vic is. We'll be fine. And I do believe that they believe that, but it is a challenge, because you're talking about two guards who are both two guards who have been asked to play someone over the course of their career. That can work really well, and it can also be kind of clunky at times. I do think having Kyle, it is just crazy. And this is why you need to have a good organization to handle situations like this. And this is why Victor Oladipo made the right decision to re-sign with Miami for the minimum instead of looking for something else. Because I don't know that there are many organizations in the NBA, you know, San Antonio, a couple of others, maybe Toronto, that would have handled this right. All right. Which is not only waiting, okay, but also, and I know they didn't know for sure if Kyle was going to play tonight, but I thought it was helpful that Kyle played tonight. Okay. Somebody to settle things down. It was helpful that they played against Houston tonight. There is a reason they targeted this game, because they could get away with some struggles. Vic came in, they were losing. Okay. I was wondering, are they going to put him in if they're losing, or are they going to wait till the second half? But they knew they could come back against this team. This situation feels to me like a situation that was managed from top to bottom by Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. They knew exactly when they wanted to get him back in. They knew who they wanted to get him back in against. Okay. They knew who they wanted to get him back in with. They knew what the role was going to be. All right. They just played this situation perfectly. And this is where organizations matter. And it comes back to the same thing that we talked about with the bubble, where everybody was like, well, they had some unfair advantage. The unfair advantage is they know what the fuck they're doing. Okay. That's the unfair advantage, excuse me, you know, and I think that is looked past so much. And I keep getting to this too. Okay. And then we will finish with some more of the basketball here, but you know, I'm talking to guys I know at ESPN, one of whom sat next to me tonight, who's a Miami guy, and another Miami guy who lives in Los Angeles. Okay. And we've talked about the Heat and why ESPN won't talk about them. And the reason that they won't talk about them, okay, is, and it's not their decision, obviously, but the people above them, is because there's no drama. They're run well. That doesn't sell. When you have four guys who are passing to each other under the basket because they like each other and they want to get each other opportunities, how the hell is ESPN going to do a segment on that? Do you know what that does? You know what that, they're too damn unselfish. You know what that does? It wins titles. It wins titles. And this team has been set up from the very beginning. It feels in a lot of ways like last year was a throwaway year. They couldn't get it right. They knew the players really weren't. They weren't emotionally, mentally, physically ready to make that run. They knew coming into the season what the plan was, how they could manage certain situations, who was going to come back when. And you know what? Then you have to trust them a little bit more on that stuff, because when they're dealing with the Markieff Morris situation, they have a plan, and we're expecting him to be back here in the next few days. And so I just think this game, look, Vic deserves the credit for the work, okay? He deserves the credit for embracing this situation, for taking the minimum, okay, for buying in. He deserved this night, but the Heat deserve a lot of credit too for putting him in the right position tonight. And there are 25 teams in the NBA that wouldn't know how the hell to do that. All right. So I just think that should be said. All right. I'm going to let you guys have final thoughts tonight, because we're going to get to a lot more tomorrow and the rest of the week on this, and different combinations, and Gabe not playing and Max not playing. And we will hit all of that. Before I do want to mention one more sponsor, 5 Reasons Sports Network. You couldn't play Vic tonight here at Prize Picks, but you can on other nights. Okay. I'm sure they'll get it in there eventually. Go to prizepicks.com, use the code 5. You get your initial deposit match. So you put down $100. You can play $100, okay? Or they'll give you $100 to play with additionally, but you don't have to play it all at once. You can play the power play, the flex play. You can play all kinds of different sports. I would recommend, if you're an NFL wide receiver, though, you don't play it during the season. That's probably not a smart decision. I think our friend Calvin Ridley learned that. Of course, Calvin was playing something else. You can have that name on a stadium, but you apparently can't play the app. But play prizepicks.com. Use the code 5. You will not get kicked out of the NFL, I promise, again, unless you're an NFL wide receiver. All right, let's get to it. Final thoughts. Brady, one thing to leave us with as we're going to analyze this more and more as the week goes on.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, we're going to spend this whole podcast talking about Victor Oladipo. Of course, all of Twitter is going to be talking about Victor Oladipo, because that is the big thing that's led up to this day. But we can't push aside what Tyler Hero is doing. Like, this stuff is real. The way he's able to just take over a quarter in this way, the way that we're watching them go through a week of a gauntlet of Eastern Conference teams, and he's matching top tier scores on the offensive side of the ball. And there's 2 elements to this. There's one, it was interesting that caught my eye when he was talking after the game, where he said, he talked about coming off the bench, and when he's watching from the bench in the first quarters, he kind of notices defensive coverages. And then once he gets in off the bench as the 6th man, he knows exactly what to do. Like, that's an interesting.
It reminds me of a Kobe Bryant comment, like something Kobe would say.
Right.
And I don't mean to be hyperbole and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to go there, but it's very like laser focused into the game.
The weird thing is Kobe Bryant would say that at 40, not 22, like, which is interesting. So, like, there's also the basketball side of it, where we always talk about, he's had these scoring punches, like he's had these moments, but has he had the efficiency and the consistency with it? I just haven't seen that up to this point, because we're seeing him doing it at all 3 levels. We're seeing him do it every night. And we're just seeing him do it just not on a ton of attempts in an inefficient way. That it's just really intriguing that I think that they're not afraid to say that, Ethan made the point early before the season, he could be their top scorer or their top attempt guy. This team, and I think Eric Spoelstra is totally comfortable with that, because he's proven all season that they can trust him in big moments, big quarters, to kind of take over in that way.
Greg, final thought?
I'm going to give a shout out to my boy Bam Adebayo for rebounding from a tough first half. He looked visibly frustrated. And I know that Twitter caught on to that. There was, talk about his disposition and stuff like that. And he rounded out into a good game, 8 of 15, 18 and 10, another double-double. I just think that's a growth moment that goes under the radar when a player can play through some struggles and end up getting, a game done against a team where you could have just, fell asleep and figured it's Houston and kind of moved on. So bam, that's who I'm shouting out, since obviously Brady did such a good job with Tyler.
I'm going to go off the board here for my victory cigar. Little unconventional. And again, check out City Cigar Lounge, downtown Miami. More than 350 different types of premium liquor, more than 50 different types of premium cigars, clean, comfortable chairs. It's called City Cigar Lounge in downtown Miami. I'm going to give it to Kyle Lowry tonight. And here's why. he has made such an impression on Heat fans that they'll be happy with him on a night he had one more technical foul than he did point. And he played 32 minutes. And if we don't get into it, okay, but if you know what Kyle's been going through behind the scenes, to be out there for his teammates tonight and to be out there for Vic, I think is significant. So just wanted to say that there will be better games from him. There need to be better games from him, but the very fact that he was out there tonight, I think mattered on a night that was pretty special here at the arena. We will analyze more of the hoop stuff, more of the rotation stuff, more of the stuff that Eric Spoelstra says is for amateurs. Us amateurs will handle that over the course of the week. Big one coming up on Wednesday night. Well, Phoenix is a little beat up right now, but they'll be playing the two best teams in the NBA will be playing on Wednesday night here in this arena. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Five on the Floor on the Five Regional Sports Network.